All right, let's start out 72-47 right now, boys, with a minute 12 left. This game was kind of tight, not that long ago. And Carolina has imposed its will, Terrence, on the Michigan Wolverines. And all of the praise we have heaped on Juwan Howard for the last 2 years, I don't know. Were we putting him in the Hall of Fame too quickly?
I don't know if we were, but I think one thing, we'll probably talk about it a little bit later too. Like, he's got a couple of freshmen that are freshmen, like guys around the perimeter. Caleb Houston, you kind of expected him to be that guy so fast. Maybe we put too much on his shoulders. He just hasn't been able to hit shots. And that's kind of been Michigan's problem for the entire season. They haven't been able to space the floor enough for Hunter Dickinson. And Hunter Dickinson's having a really hard time navigating these double teams. We thought, after a whole summer, we talked about in the preseason All-American show, we thought that summer would benefit him tremendously as far as reading defenses and all that, but it doesn't matter if guys aren't hitting shots. So, I mean, that's kind of where the difficult portion comes into it for Michigan. But, North Carolina, we'll get to them in a second, but I just like their pieces as far as, they've got talent across the board. It's just a matter of if they've been able to guard or not. But I don't know how much of this is Michigan and how much of this is North Carolina, kind of embracing, defense.
Rob, you've seen Michigan a couple times in Vegas. I've seen Carolina a couple times in Mohegan Sun. I was not impressed at all. I mean, their defense has been atrocious, but Michigan's now got 51 points. They're probably going to end up with 51 or whatever points against the Carolina team that could not stop Brown, College of Charleston, anybody so far. How concerned are you about this Michigan team that, again, I don't want to say, the real deal or fraud. We don't need to play that game yet, but are they a little fraudulent compared to their preseason ranking?
Well, yeah. I mean, they were in the top 5. I picked them to go to the Final Four, and I'm worried.
You did.
I would say that I'm worried about that. I think Mike Smith made it look so easy for them last year that you thought that Devontae Jones could just come in and run the show. And he's been really up and down. He's had some games where he scored it, but then he's turned it over. He's had some games where he's fouled in a excessive amount. He has been very up and down. He was not good tonight. Hunter Dickinson was not good from the start tonight. I know he got in foul trouble. He had 4 fouls with 14 minutes to go. But the double teams have just taken him totally out of rhythm. And I would like to see Michigan run some of the stuff that Purdue and Illinois runs to get those, whether it's Kofi Coburn or Purdue's guys with Zach Edey, Travion Williams, where it's high-low, it's drag ball screens with duck ins, it's the middle of the court, and you can't trap if you're catching the ball in the paint. Now you have to worry about 3 seconds. You can't just camp in there all day. But man, I just think when they throw in the ball in that block, that double is coming immediately. And they're not, as Terrence said, they're not shooting it well enough outside of Eli Brooks for that to really concern anybody. They look lost. They look.
I would add also, we haven't talked about enough, Devontae Jones. You mentioned Mike Smith being that guy who came in and was able to just pick it up right away. And I think we thought because Smith did it, and he was a mid-major transfer coming out of the Ivy League, that Devontae Jones was going to be able to do it coming out of Coastal Carolina. But he has looked like most transfer ups. Most transfer ups are guys that you cut their production in half. Almost, the majority of them. Now with Devontae Jones, he's not even getting half of it at this point. I mean, again, he's not making shots. He's not really taking care of the ball. He just looks now like somebody who's overmatched in the Big Ten.
I agree with that. And another person, I like what Robbie said about they need to get more creative ways to get in the ball to where it's not as an opportune time to trap him, especially when you get him on one block or the other. You know who the best in the country is Bill Self. He's got David McCormick, who he struggled this year. But, man, he gets him deep post position, and they always seem to feed it from the top. We used to run a lot of stuff for Trevor Booker that way. You get it to him from the top, and if he makes a quick move, you can make some things happen. I just I wonder how long it's going to take for Jones to be able to adjust, because you saw like sometimes these transfers, like you said, Tyson Walker at Michigan State, he's made a quick adjustment too after the first few games. He was terrific tonight. We're going to address that, but you got to find different ways to make your best player sometimes.
But you can't win. To me, you can't win without a quality point guard. Like there's only so much you can do, especially when your best player is a big Rob. Like
in fairness to Devontae Jones, Mike Smith had like 5 NBA players playing around him. You lose Livers, you lose Franz Wagner, you lose Shawnee Brown, who's an NBA player, and also like Austin Davis, and am I forgetting one other guy that? Regardless, really good Big Ten players, NBA type talents, and I think that you just have to remember that just because these guys have high rankings next to their names, and I fell into this a little bit too. I did say this was like a bet for down the road, and they still could turn it around. But I do think that the point guard play is a problem. The shooting is a problem. They've had turnovers and spurts. I don't think their numbers are necessarily horrible, but they've been incredibly untimely, where they have turned the ball over in really bad parts of games. I don't know. Juwan Howard's going to have his work cut out for him, because right now they're just – you're right. North Carolina has looked defensively so bad, and they scored 51 points tonight. That's not good.
You know what the good thing is, guys? Michigan fans don't care. I mean, they just beat Ohio. Like, what do they care?
Their fan base is crazy, dude.
They don't care, Rob. They just care about football right now. They take that trade any day of the week. They would take.
They might take that trade, but they care. They care about basketball. This isn't like Ohio State. I would agree. If Ohio State was rolling in football and their basketball team stinks, I agree. But the Michigan fan base does care about basketball.
Yeah, they care, but again, they'll take that trade any day of the week. If they can go to the football playoffs, they take a winless college hoop season if they knew they had a chance to go to the football playoffs. But
I know how that feels where I'm living at too.